Good morning. Good morning. As you probably guessed, I am not Linda. So my name is Grant Trevithick. I've been asked to share the Sunday lesson today since Linda's on vacation. And I kind of want to tell you a little bit about my story and the journey that I went through. So I was born and raised in a very small town in far west Texas by the name of El Paso, right on the border. Now, that was back in the 60s and is very typical in a small town. My family took me to church every single Sunday. We went religiously, no pun intended. So I went to Sunday school, children's church, and on the very few times my parents allowed me, I got to sit in the adult church. I had no idea what I was listening to, but I kind of liked the music. And of course, then on the summer, we went to Bible camp. So I was taught that God is this very large man, I'm sorry, he was a man back then, sitting on a throne watching over us. And every time we did anything wrong, we got a little black mark. I was also taught that I had to pray to Jesus for forgiveness. Now, I'm not quite sure as a little child what I did that was so bad that I had to pray for forgiveness, but I had to do that. If I didn't pray to forgiveness, I would go someplace very bad. And if Jesus decided to forgive me, I got to go up to heaven. Now, this is just what the mind of a small child was saying. I'm not making fun of Christianity. And so for a long time, I envisioned God, once again, as this very large man, big kind of belly, long white hair, long white mustache and beard, kind of looked like Santa Claus. But that whole idea that God is up there watching for every tiny little mistake we made never made a lot of sense to me. So I kind of kept searching, and I went to many, many different churches. I went to Baptist church, where I was told I was a very evil human being until Jesus forgave me. I went to Methodist. I went to all the different churches, and I was never able to come up with something that made me feel good and made sense to me. And I'm one of those kind of analytical guys. It has to make logical sense to me. And so I would go up and talk to the pastor or the preacher, and I would say, well, if God is everywhere present, then where is evil? And I never got a really good answer. And I said, if God is all powerful, then why couldn't God just go, evil, be gone? Now, I'm a father. I would do anything in my world and anything in my power if I could make my son live a perfectly healthy, long, happy life. I would banish evil from his life forever. So why doesn't God do that for us? And then I kind of went, well, if God is omniscient and he knows everything that's going to happen before it happens, then why are we here as a test? Doesn't God know what's going to happen in our lives before we're even born? I never got answers to those. And so I kept searching. And then finally in my late 20s, I went to the Unity Church of Forest, and I listened to Dr. Don Curtis. Now, Dr. Don Curtis was a great presenter. And I don't know what the other 800 people were doing that day because he was only speaking to me. And what he told me is, if you can make a mess of your life, which I certainly had at that time, going through a divorce and a bunch of other stuff, if you are so powerful you can make a mess of your life, you are powerful enough to create something amazing. Now, my ego loved that. I was powerful. I was not a product of my past. I could create anything in my life that I wanted. So I jumped right in. I studied every class they gave. I read everything that Charles and Earl wrote. I really got into it. And I came into this existential question that I couldn't answer. If I'm not here for a test, there's a lot of pain involved. If everything is God and everything is good, what's the purpose of life? And for some reason, I had to have that answer. So I really meditated, I thought about it, and I listened to a lot of people, and I didn't get a really great explanation. So many years later, I'd moved up. I was sitting in a church up in Marianne Williamson's church up in Oregon. And there was about 2,000 people that day. We were all meditating, and I have no idea what she was talking about because I wasn't listening. And I wasn't even listening to the meditation because I was in my own head and I'm going, what's the purpose of life? What's the purpose of life? And I kind of opened my eyes and I looked around and I said, oh, why are 2,000 people sitting here listening to her speak? Why are you sitting here listening to me? And the answer dawned on me. In our heart of hearts, in our souls of souls, don't we most want to feel God in our life? Don't we want to be able to prove God, know God, and experience God on a regular basis? I know I do. I know that's the reason I go to church. That's the reason I meditate. That's the reason I pray. That's the reason I have a spiritual life. I went, kind of obvious. Now, sometimes I'm kind of dense, and it takes a little while for God's wisdom to get through this thick head. So I said, okay, if the purpose of my life is to know God, how do I do that? So I am a Jesus freak. I love Jesus. He is an amazing teacher. And the cool thing is, he said, I am no different than you. I just kind of understand things a little bit more than you do, but I'm going to help show you the way. And as the Chinese said, every 1,000 years a great prophet comes and points the way, and we spend the next 1,000 years worshiping his finger. And that's kind of what we do with Jesus, because Jesus was not a Christian. Jesus was a way shower. And one of the things Jesus talked about, and every single spiritual teaching talks about, is that God is love. Not God is loving, God is love. And I believe if you look at 1 John 4:8, it teaches everything you know about every single spiritual teaching. And that is, God is love. Whoever expresses love experiences God, and those who do not, do not. It's not on the screen. What I'm going to show you on the screen is there's different teachings, and what I'm saying is in alignment with almost every other spiritual teaching there is. Once again, God is love. Whoever expresses love experiences God, and those who do not, do not. Now, I think there are two important lessons in there. And the first is God is love. It doesn't say God is loving. God is the very essence of love. And you can never be what you're not. So I hear people tell me God is unlimited, and I disagree with that. God is very limited. God cannot be hate. God cannot be anger. God cannot be vengeance. God is love. God is wisdom. God is health. God is faith. And God can never be what is not. So God is love, and love is God. And the other thing is this, is whatever you express is what you experience. Now, I don't have any ability to feel any of your emotions. I can only feel the emotions that I do, that I give out. If I want peace in the world, then I need to be peaceful. If I want to feel and experience generosity in my life, I need to be generous around other people. If I want to be loved, then I need to give love to other people. And I know my true nature is to be very loving. And I really thought about, what is love? I'm one of these guys that ask all those annoying questions. So what is love? The greatest synonym for love that I can figure out, not cinnamon, like those great Cinnabons, word that means the same thing, is giving. When I feel love, I want to give of myself to another human being. Now, I am married to a beautiful woman and an absolutely amazing son. I get up every single day and I ask myself, what can I do to make their life better? I go to work so I can give them a very comfortable place to live. I go to work so I can give them the financial resources so they're secure. When we walk down the street, if I feel there's something out there, I'm going to stand between them and whatever I feel is kind of a little bit questionable. So I'm going to give them safety. And I'm going to give them everything that I have so that they can live a great and amazing life. Jackson, that does not mean you're going to get every single Lego or NASCAR little die cast that they ever make. But I'm going to try. And if you look at our den, you're going to see that he has almost all the Legos. Now, they kind of went on and they really looked at this, and in the Bible, the Pharisees tried to kind of mess up Jesus. And they asked him, what is the greatest commandment of all time? Do y'all remember what he said? The greatest commandment of all times is love thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul. And the second, likened unto that, which is the same thing, is love your neighbor as you love yourself. So Jesus said the greatest commandment is to love. Now, he also said there is never any excuse to not love. Doggone it. Because sometimes he gets me really angry. Not you. You never get me upset. But somebody might get me angry. And just like the word of today, Jesus said, you can never allow yourself to be upset. If you want to stay in alignment with God, if you want to experience God in your life, you always stay loving. So Peter came to him and said, look, my brother really ticks me off. How many times do I have to forget that so-and-so? You know what Jesus said? He said 70 times 7. Now, he didn't mean 490. In the Bible, there's a lot of numerology. And for example, 40 is the numerology till the end. It rained 40 days and 40 nights. It rained until it didn't. 7 is also a numerology until the end. Keep forgiving until there's no more forgiveness. Move from the space of being right, being angry, to being kind and loving. He said there's never a reason not to do that. Now, what I know is this. My mind, I think all of our minds have this great mind virus. When we are born, we have this mind virus, and it infects us with 2 things. And the first thing is we hate to take responsibility. We love to blame everybody else. It's not my fault. It's their fault. It's something that happened 200 years ago. It's really tough to say, no, everything in my life is my responsibility. I did it. Nobody did anything to me. And the other thing the mind virus says, we love to be righteous. I'm right and you're wrong. I've seen whole relationships get burned to the ground because the husband or the wife wants to be right, even if they know they're wrong. And I'll tell you, I'm right about this. But the reality is we have a choice. Now here's a lot of people ask me, why am I always in a good mood? And I said, because I choose to be in a good mood. I get up in the morning and I consciously say, today's going to be a great day and I'm going to go make it a great day. Now, the interesting thing is, if you don't know that you have a choice, you don't have a choice. So a lot of people go through life and whatever's happening out there, they allow it to dictate their life. They forget you are always at choice. So you are always at choice with who you are being. Are you being angry? Are you being vengeful? Are you being kind of pissy? Are you being kind? Are you being loving? It is your choice, always in the moment. And by the way, let me tell you, and my wife will tell you that I'm never upset. I never get righteous. I never get, But when I remember that I'm at choice, I can go back to being loving and being kind. So what does it mean to be loving and kind? We all hear this. I'm not telling anybody anything new. But what does it mean? It means to be kind. It means to be gentle with each other. It means when you see somebody who has a hard time, maybe you sit down and you just listen, even if you don't care. Because being heard and being acknowledged is one of the greatest gifts we can give to another human being. It's being charitable, even when it's hard. And it's giving of yourself in every moment. So I'm not going to hold myself out as some great poobah and somebody who does this on a regular basis, but I'm going to kind of talk about a couple stories. So we have a family friend. My wife and I have a friend, an acquaintance really more than a friend, but she really loves Jackson and Jackson loves her. And she's kind of old. I think she's kind of fighting some dementia and she's fighting some other things. And in September, we found out she was about 3 days from being homeless. And my wife and I talked about it and we said, this doesn't work for us if the people in our sphere have to go through that experience, because she wouldn't last a day in the world. So we jumped in, probably mostly me, jumped in, paid her rent. She had her car repossessed, her phone was cut off, her electricity was cut off. She was really in a tough situation. And I ended up putting her in an assisted living facility. I now manage all of her finances, and I manage all of her medical. I'm not saying this to look at me, look at me. Here's the point. We have her over regularly on a Friday night to have pizza, play with Jackson, watch a movie, and play games. And she's actually pretty pleasant for everybody, except me. And she sends these nasty little digs and these barbs at me on a regular basis, kind of always putting me down. And man, I want to defend myself. I want to get right. Why is she doing this? I'm being nice to her. Even my wife said, you don't cut the hand that feeds you. Being loved is being loving even when it's hard. That's just who she is. That's what she does. I'm never going to do anything to change her. And if you're truly living from your heart, if you're truly being loving, it doesn't matter what's on the other side. It doesn't matter if they acknowledge it. It doesn't matter if they say thank you. It doesn't even matter if they slap your hand for giving them the food. It doesn't matter because it's how you are experiencing yourself. So I'm going to share a story that I don't think I've told very many people in my life. I don't think I've even told my wife. Sorry. So I've always wanted a family. That was my heart's desire. And years ago, I met this lady online. It was not my wife. Really amazing lady. She lived a couple states away. I met her online. On our third phone call, she said, I have cancer, and I have 25% chance of living for the next 5 years. And I have no idea who on my side of the phone said, it doesn't matter. I would rather have a chance to love and lose than never love again. And I went, what the hell did I just say? But I went, okay, I'm going to go with it. And I put myself in that relationship. And it was amazing. And sure enough, about 1.5 years, the cancer came back. We fought really hard. And I always held those men or those women that would put their spouses before themselves and put their whole side, their life aside, and would take care of their spouse when their spouse was in trouble. You know, would go to the hospital every day and take care of them. I had them up on a pedestal because I never felt like I had the ability to love anybody that much. And about 6 months after she died, I was sitting on the back porch feeling sorry for myself, drinking a beer, watching my dogs play, and I went, wow, I am one of those people. And in that moment, I felt myself grow so much bigger than I could ever imagine. Now, why is that important? Because 2 years later, I moved to Dallas, and I went to a church called the CSL over here in Dallas. And I saw this very beautiful young lady walk by, and my heart went. And I stopped her and I said, can I tell you something? You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And she looked at me and freaked out and ran away. So for the next months, I very gently and calmly, as much as I could, asked her out. And she kept saying no. And I asked her out, and she said no. And I asked her out, and she said, okay. I never could have done that if I had not trusted and gone through the experience before. Today, the reason I have a beautiful wife, an amazing wife, that runs her own church, who homeschools my son, protects her like a lioness, and I have the most amazing son in the world that I would give up my life for him to be happy, healthy, and loving, is because a whole many years before I said it didn't matter. I'm going to stand in love. That 30 seconds of courage gave me a lifetime of love. And this isn't about me. because I am no different than you. And by the way, I stumble and fall, and I'm on my knees a whole lot of times. Each and every one of us can do this. I saw a great movie one time. It says 30 seconds of courage can change your life. And I believe it. And it's tough because we want to protect ourselves. But in the very moment when you feel you want to protect yourself, that's the moment to reach out and be kind and being loving to somebody else. So let's take a moment and do a quick meditation. You all put your feet on the floor. Roll your shoulders, take a deep breath. Inhale in and inhale out. Imagine what the world would look like if every single person in this planet had your best interest in mind. What would the world look like if God was willing to move the Red Seas, part the Red Seas, perform miracles so that you were emotionally and physically safe? What would it look like if you knew that every time you opened up your heart and you gave kindness, you gave charity, you gave generosity, and you gave love to another person? What would your life look like if you knew that was returned to you tenfold every single time? Would you scream at the person that cut you off on the way home? Or would you bless them? If you had a friend that was in trouble, would you go over them and give a hug, or would you say, I'm just too busy today? What would life look like if we sought out opportunities to be loving and kind and generous to each other, regardless of the circumstances? That love is who you are. That love is God. And every time you give it to another person, you get to experience who you truly are at your essence. Because each and every one of us is divine in our very essence. That is who we are. That is who we have come to be. That is our purpose in life. What would it feel like to live in a life like that? So if you quietly come back, I want to finish with a quote from Lao Tzu. Do y'all know who Lao Tzu is? So I'm going to save you about 15 years worth of study. Lao Tzu is a great librarian in China, about 600 years before Jesus walked on the planet. And he wrote the book Tao Te Ching or Tao I Ching. Now, what the Tao says is there's a gentle flow of energy that's flowing through the universe. When you align yourself with that energy, you get to experience a life of love, happiness, and joy. When you're out of alignment, kind of swimming uphill, is when you attract pain, suffering. Jesus called that flow love. That's the essence of the Tao Te Ching. So Lao Tzu wrote, watch your thoughts. They become your words. Watch your words. They become your actions. Watch your actions because they become habits. Watch your habits because they become your character. Watch your character because that becomes your destiny. So you guys have a loving day.
Please join with me as we affirm our offertory blessing. Together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. as we prepare to say our prayer for protection, let us remember what Grant said. What was it, Grant? What is your purpose in life, right? When we go into the week, let's do that for ourselves. Answer that question. So now, let us all say, and we'll do call and response. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Together, wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Have a good week.